Think about countries like Korea or Thailand or India, right? Their culture, their cuisine naturally includes bitter, sour, and spicy flavor profiles. They just exist natively in their kitchens. So, kimchi, curry, these flavors children are being exposed to naturally really early in life and often. And so, this makes their acceptance of these flavors so much easier. But we don't have this built in flavor kaleidoscope in basic American cuisine, and certainly not in our kid food. Or we didn't until now. Today, I'm introducing you guys to a genius company making sauces with typically grown-up flavors, but for toddlers' taste buds.
Over and over again, whether it be books that I read or even just social media browsing, there was a common theme that the earlier you expose your child to different flavors and different textures, the more receptive they'll be to including them in their diet as they get older. So it kind of was like a light bulb moment for me, like how are we going to know that they don't like them if we don't even offer it to them?
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Earth Food First podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Navama, toddler mama, cookbook author, and certified integrative nutrition coach on a mission to reimagine kid food culture to protect our children's whole health. That means body, mood, and mind. Today's episode is part of our Clean and Convenient series, where I sit down with founders who are creating the purest foods on the market today with our kids' health top of mind. I created this series to make it easier for you to discover and support brands you can trust that are using only the highest quality whole food ingredients to help our families thrive. And if you haven't downloaded my free Earth Food First grocery guide, the link is in the show notes. I update the guide quarterly and list all my go-to groceries from produce to pantry and everything in between. So today's episode feels unusually delicious and exciting to me, and here's why. This mompreneur's product is addressing one of the biggest challenges that we face in America today when it comes to addressing the picky eating epidemic and learning to raise Omni-Eaters, a phrase I'd love to coin right here and right now to refer to a child who eats most foods. Unfortunately, in today's classic kid food landscape in the US, only 3 flavor profiles are consistently represented, and they happen to be the flavors that humans innately like: sweet, salty, and fatty. These flavors, while absolutely delicious, can actually make food be addicting, especially a food that's literally been engineered to have a bliss point that keeps adults and children constantly coming back for more, even when they're no longer hungry. So what exactly does this mean? This means most American parents need to work extra hard to teach our kids to feel comfortable and actually enjoy the other flavors, like bitter, sour, spicy, and umami flavor profiles that are found in so many highly nutritious earth foods, but are not commonly being served at our dining tables. So think about countries like Korea or Thailand or India, right? Their culture, their cuisine naturally includes bitter, sour, and spicy flavor profiles. They just exist natively in their kitchens. So kimchi, curry, these flavors children are being exposed to naturally really early in life and often. And so this makes their acceptance of these flavors so much easier. But we don't have this built-in flavor kaleidoscope in basic American cuisine, and certainly not in our kid food. Or we didn't until now. Today, I'm introducing you guys to a genius company making sauces with typically grown-up flavors, but for toddlers' taste buds. This means that our little ones can explore bitter, sour, and pungent umami flavors that come with foods like garlic, onion, cilantro, and balsamic vinegar easily through these more mild recipes that are also, by the way, packed with veggies and made without added sugar, salt, or any unhealthy ingredients that you do not want to be putting in your child's brand new body. Jill Weissman is a mompreneur from Long Island, New York, and founder of this innovative food brand, Beyond the Bib. As the mom of two littles, Jill launched this company from her kitchen after realizing the sauces she loved cooking for her family were packed with unpronounceable ingredients, additives, and excessive sugar. Definitely not what she wanted to serve her first food graduates. With a focus on incorporating lots of blended veggies, Beyond the Bib is on a mission to make healthy eating for little ones both delicious and nutritious. In this episode, we cover what ingredients to watch out for and avoid in store-bought sauces, how sauces can be used as a tool to expand our children's palates and teach them to enjoy different flavor profiles, what exactly makes Beyond the Bib different from most store-bought sauce, Jill's top tips for starting your own food brand and her biggest challenges, advice for starting a business as a toddler mama, and Jill's take on controversial topics in our current kid food culture. Hello, Jill. Welcome to the Earth Food First podcast. Thanks so much for coming on to be part of our Clean CPG series and for coming out with these truly incredible, simple sauces for our families.
Thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. I'm happy to be here and chat with you.
I was ecstatic when your account came across my Instagram feed and I'm like digging in and I'm like, wait, is this the thing I think it is? Like, did someone finally do this and make like cool, unique sauces that are super clean and meant for our kids at their youngest stage of life? Yes, they did. And I was so happy you replied to my DM. So thank you.
Yes, I keep thinking to myself, like, why hasn't somebody else thought of this yet? Like, there's such a need for it. So I had to just do it myself.
Well, I'm so glad you did. I think we have so many of those moments. I know I have in my life where you think of something and you're like, how has this not been done? It probably has. And then we don't do it, right? We don't take that action. So with Beyond the Bib, what was your like main inspiration for launching this company?
So we were starting solids with my daughter about 4 years ago, and we had introduced her to all the typical first foods that parents use these days, bananas, avocados, and we were really ready to take her to the next level and introduce her to more flavors and textures, and most importantly, bring her into the family meals that my husband and I were cooking for ourselves. And we are very adventurous eaters, and we love different flavors, and we love going out, and ultimately we wanted her to be able to share in those meals with us. And the sauces that we use to cook with, I started to just kind of turn them over and look at the ingredient list, and I noticed a lot of ingredients that I didn't know what they were, or different types of like sugars and salts that I just wasn't sure if a little child, at 10 months old should be having. So I went down this Googling rabbit hole of, can my 10-month-old have salt? Can my 10-month-old have citric acid? And I ultimately found that a lot of the ingredients that were in the sauces we use are really there for function and not nutrition. So to make it thicker, to make it last longer on the shelf, to cover up rancid smells. So I just decided to forego all of that and kind of start making our own, and took away all the questionable ingredients and then add back in extra vegetables, herbs and spices that I either had on hand or I thought would taste good with that flavor profile. And we kind of just had our own little saucery going on, and it made home cooking for my daughter so easy, especially after a really busy day at work. My husband and I, we both work 9 to 5. I was able to just come home, cook up a protein, get a grain going, a rice or a pasta, and then throw on a different sauce every day. And I had a well-balanced meal for her in minutes. So that's how the idea kind of came to be.
I love that. So I'm always so curious. Like, we're a similar family, right? We love going out to dinner. We love food. Like, we love exploring different flavors. Like, we're those people who like live to eat. We don't just eat to live. And, but like, you're also a mom like me in America. And I know there's moms who are like us also, but then they just naturally assume their kids won't like that stuff and don't even try to bring them into the family meal. How did you have a different perspective? I'm just curious. Like, what made you be like, no, I'm not going to give her this kid food. I want her to like all these flavors. Like what made you bold enough or confident enough to think she could, I guess?
I think it's probably like the manic researcher and analyzer in me that was just doing a ton of research prior to her starting solids to understand what was the path I wanted to take for her. And over again, whether it be books that I read or even just social media browsing, there was a common theme that the earlier you expose your child to different flavors and different textures, the more receptive they'll be to including them in their diet as they get older. So it kind of was like a light bulb moment for me, like how are we going to know that they don't like them if we don't even offer it to them? There will come a time when toddlers are opinionated and they have their preferences, and that's okay, but all the time leading up to that, it's my role as a parent, I believed, to expose my daughter to the different options, and then down the road, let her at least know that these choices exist, instead of making that decision for her and assuming that mac and cheese and chicken nuggets are the only thing she'll like because that's a kid food that we all think they'll like. So I just wanted to be proactive.
So, and what did you do prior to becoming a sauce expert and sauce guru? What were you doing? Like, what's your background?
So my background is actually in operations and supply chain.
Okay.
I previously worked for an organic baby food company, a very well-known one, in sourcing and procurement. So I was in charge of sourcing the ingredients for an organic, food company. And I was really able to see firsthand the thought process that goes into both the ingredients as well as the manufacturing process. And to me, it was just so fascinating to be able to kind of see from like the ground level, like where are large corporations, where is their mindset when they are producing food, right? And it's taste first, right? Is it taste good? Is it finger looking good? Is it going to keep the customers coming back for more?
Right.
And, is it able to last on the shelf for a really long time? So again, that was kind of full circle to the ingredients that I found I wasn't loving for my daughter, was they were there not for nutrition, but for commercial purpose. And it just wasn't stuff that was in my kitchen, and I didn't want to include it. But I did have that background in sourcing to lead me to, okay, I think I can do this from a commercial side.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know it all, and we never know why we get the jobs we get, right? And so you clearly got that job because you were really meant to do this. So I love that transition for you. So speaking of, normal sauces we would buy at the grocery store having all the fillers because they're functional, right? Or they make it taste finger licking good. How, without, you guys don't have any preservatives, anything like that, how long can this last just on the shelf? I know you have to refrigerate it once opened.
So after our manufacturing date, they are, we say best by 2 years after production. And that is only because of, for flavor and just best taste. They're actually food safe. Essentially till like the apocalypse. So like well into eternity, they are food safe, the way that we process them. It's just the flavor and the taste profile that we're looking for. We say, best to use within 2 years. And then after you open it, we say to use within 7 to 10 days because truly there are no artificial preservatives. So we use natural acidifiers. So lemon juice, lime juice, vinegars. So within 7 to 10 days is a nice sweet spot of it still tasting exactly how we'd like it to.
So you did sauces. There's so many things in the world, but why did you pick sauces to be your flavor vehicle to deliver these to young kids?
So I found them to be the quickest way to kind of round out a meal when I was in a hurry, in a pinch, running, late from work. I had looked into a lot of like meal subscription services where like you essentially have the frozen food delivered to you. And I just felt like a lot of the meals, I was able to handle most of the heavy lifting. Like I could defrost my own peas, right? I can defrost my own chicken. And it was really just about how do I keep it fresh and keep her interested. So I had looked into spices and kind of just doing different spice blends. But I ended up finding as my daughter got older, sauces were a really fun way of getting her involved in the kitchen and kind of making it more of like a bonding experience where I would have her, hey, come in and help me measure to dump this sauce into the bowl. Or, if it was just a chicken nugget night, I would, give her the barbecue sauce on the side in a little bowl, and she enjoyed dipping it. So there's kind of this funness, I think, to sauces, whether it's already incorporated into the meal or as a dip on the side, that just makes it really fun and like customizable. So it just became the easiest way to whip up a meal and to also have my daughter involved in cooking when, I wanted to make it a little more of a production and have her be included.
And I so appreciate it because as like a home chef, I consider myself, I cook a lot, but sauces take a minute. Like I'm not like, you can whip up like a very simple sauce, but this, like, I'm not going to whip up a green coconut curry at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night, or even my own homemade barbecue sauce. Like I'm not going to do it. And I cook a lot, right? So I can imagine the average mom. So to be able to up level your meal, which is essentially what you're doing. Like, again, I could roast my chicken and, saute my vegetables, no problem. But yeah, it really does take it to the next level. And the reason I don't use sauces more is exactly your point. I look at the label, I'm like, it's not going in her body, and it's probably not going in my body either, with all the xanthan gum and the gar gum and all the things that are creating gut dysbiosis in so many of us. So sauces were a brilliant move. Your sauces are super clean. I know some people don't like that word, but I'll just say like the ingredients are ingredients we mostly all have in our pantry. What should people watch out for or avoid when they're buying store-bought sauces, in your opinion?
So I think there are kind of like three pillars that I look at when I'm reading an ingredient list. One are the sugars, right? So where are the sugars coming from? Are they natural from, fruits and from fruits? Or are they refined sugars, high fructose corn syrup, sugars that are going to kind of affect your kid and maybe have them crash later? Those are mostly there for flavor. So I don't think you need to get flavor just by automatically adding sugar. So the first thing I'll look for is kind of where are the sugar sources coming from? Is it added sugar or naturally derived sugar from, some of the fruits? Second would be natural flavors. So that's obviously a very big topic of discussion these days, and the transparency or lack of transparency around natural flavors. There can just be so many chemicals or artificial items within natural flavors that you just aren't clear on what they are. And as a parent, I think we just want transparency, right? Like, let me make the decision if it's right for my family or not.
Yeah.
But it's the transparency that I'm looking for. So the sugars, the natural flavors. And then the third would be kind of preservatives and thickeners.
Yeah.
So like gums and acidifiers. And some of these ingredients, from my researching, they're not necessarily terrible, right? They're in the majority of our food, like they are within our society. But in my kind of development process, I realized like you don't need to include them. You can achieve the viscosity levels you want, the flavor level you want, without adding those commercially driven, really cheapy ingredients. So like, for instance, with our green coconut sauce, we needed to thicken it. The main base is coconut milk. So we thickened it with cauliflower, right? So we were able to get to the consistency we wanted without having to add a gum. And the coconut sauce in particular was on the thinner side, because even the coconut milk that we source does not have gums in it. So
which
we
is
really
hard
take
to find.
And so expensive. So we really take it like to the one step back of, do the ingredients that we use have any additives in them? So that has also been a challenge to make sure that we can, source those kind of ingredients.
So when you guys are removing all of the like cheapy things, the fillers and the thickeners, obviously that's going to bring up the price point of what it costs you as a company to make this product. So talk a little bit about that, where most companies, and it sounds like the company you worked for previously, I know like they put, I'll say, taste and profit first. You guys have put the health of our kids first. How can you do that and either educate consumers on why your product's costing so much more? Like, what has that journey been like for you, and how do you see it scaling while still keeping such a high quality product?
So I think the benefit of the majority of our ingredients being vegetables is that we could be very strategic about where we're sourcing them from, and like the time of year and the harvest, and partnering with the producers that we want to partner with, that we feel good about. And that's where, my background in sourcing of produce really will come in hand. And the manufacturer that we use today, it's actually a local manufacturer to Long Island, which is where we're based out of. And they are a nonprofit that work closely with farmers out east, and are using excess produce from those farms to be able to then implement into small businesses like myself. So it's really a pretty symbiotic relationship where we're taking the excess produce and we're able to be really strategic from a cost perspective. And I do think only scaling going forward will continue to work in our favor as we have more buying power and are able to buy more volume.
Okay. That's so interesting for people that do not come from sourcing or that world, but to hear just the nuances of how it's all working together, and hearing that you guys are using excess produce is amazing, because I know that is a huge problem, the food waste problem that looks like these little jars are also working to help solve. So that's great. Let's talk about salt for a minute. So I grew up loving salt. My dad loves salt. I don't know. My mom's not a big salter, but I like to salt my food. And I saw that you guys have no added salt, which I know these are more intended probably for younger kids, where you do have to be very salt conscious. And so when I was going to taste them, I wasn't sure how I would feel, or Stella would feel, because I salt her food, not overly, but I do, and have since she's been 1 year old, when you can introduce salt. I was so pleasantly surprised and by the refreshing flavor. I was tasting all of the vegetables. I really taste the freshness of the lemon and the creaminess of the coconut, because it wasn't being masked by salt. And it actually made me kind of think I probably need to pull back a little bit on my use of salt, so I can just experience the fresh flavors more. Because if you buy something on the shelf, it's already, steamrolled by that salt as the primary flavor in our culture. What was your, decision when it came to adding some salt, no salt? How did that transpire?
So I think it stemmed from the initial, research I was doing in how much could my baby have in salt when she was starting solids. Yeah. And the consensus is that, sodium and salt in moderation, under 1 is okay, not to salt baby's food, but, some amount of sodium is important. For me, when we were, kind of crafting Beyond the Bib, the overarching theme was, how do we relieve some of the stress and the angst from parents when it comes to ingredient labels? And for me, that just meant, no salt. No salt, no added sugar, no artificial anything, even though something like, like a citric acid, which is an acidifier, like even though technically some may not see that as an issue, if we just remove all that common denominator of anything that could be seen as questionable to a new parent or possibly a grandparent who needs to feed their grandchild, like, let's just remove all the questions. Nobody can question a vegetable or an herb or a spice. So to me, it was just an easy way to say, it can be customizable. If there are families that enjoy salt and that's an important part of their family, by all means, like, let you add it in. I think it's really important as a mother. I am a big proponent of families doing what's best for their family. And everybody, has their own circumstance. So by all means, I'd love for parents to kind of take our sauces and use them as a base to build off of. but I thought removing any ingredient that didn't need to be there would just be the easiest way to, kind of reach the masses and then let people decide how they wanted to move forward with it.
So I want to congratulate you on that choice because I think it was brave and bold. And here's why. Most of the food and the kid food, as you know, that we buy at the stores have salt. So there may be a chance, and I want all my community to hear me say this as we're very open to learning how to feed our kids differently, right? Your kid might taste this, and if they're used to salt, like my daughter Stella, they might not accept it right away. So I urge you to do what Jill here said and customize it and have fun with it. I plan to introduce them to Stella and let her know, hey, there's no salt in these. Mommy cooks with salt. Let's do a taste test and see. She will be adding salt. We will add a little olive oil if she thinks it's too tart. And she will get to play a role. And it won't be about, do you like this sauce? Because that's a yes or no question. And we know, love toddlers. Toddlers love to say no, right? But let these sauces be like a gateway to exploration for food. But I think that was so smart because people can always add, but you cannot detract. And we're just in such a over-salted world and over-gummed world. There's gums in everything. It's like, yes, gums might not be harmful if they were only in 2 sauces we ever bought. But when they're in our plant milk and our bread and our cookies and our chips and our pasta, all of a sudden your body's like, I have too much xanthan gum in my body. And this actually happened to me. I developed like a gut issue and I'm just learning I have a sensitivity to gums. Yeah. And because I was having all these things that I thought was healthy, this was probably 8 years ago. And I was having my almond milk and my, almond bread and my everything had these gums in it as thickeners, and they overdo it in our bodies. So you stripped it down, and that was brave and brilliant. So I think also just like I was looking up, so for parents who may not know, when it comes to salt in our kids, 1 to 3 years old, it says that 1,000 milligrams is sort of the acceptable amount. And I was trying to picture that because I'm like, I don't know what that looks like. And so in 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, there's 300 milligrams. So that kind of just gives you a visual. Like if your kid's supposed to have 1,000, you might be able to get away with, a half a teaspoon or a little more in a day. But when they're in the foods we're buying, we have no idea, right? I mean, what that really looks like.
It all just kind of compounds on each other, to your point, right? If there's a little bit in everything, then it's really not a little bit anymore. And then that's when it can affect us like it clearly, unfortunately did for you.
Exactly. So how did you choose which sauces to make? You guys have 3 flavors. You have a barbecue sauce, a coconut green curry, and a tomato sauce.
So we were very intentional about the flavors from both what were we using in our own house, right? Because we had at first developed it for our own family. But then also what would appeal to the most parents and the most people, and also what kind of needed the most help. Yeah. Right. So for me, the barbecue sauce was an immediate, this needs SOS barbecue sauce. And both from an ingredient standpoint, but also from this, not to get philosophical about it, but when I think about barbecues, it's the ultimate family gathering, family togetherness, right? Comfort food, maybe during the week, everybody's doing their own thing, running around dinner time. But on the weekend, you're having a barbecue, it's a shared family meal. Let's make it one family meal that everybody can have. Right. And really that there wasn't a barbecue sauce that we were comfortable having that nice family meal all together with. So that one was all right, get rid of the caramel coloring, get rid of the high fructose corn syrup. What can we put in place of it that are acceptable? So, instead of high fructose corn syrup, ours is sweetened with dates. And, we added in spinach, carrots, butternut squash. These are all really delicious vegetables that, if you like veggies, you could probably taste that they're in there. But if you have a more selective eater, they may not even know it's in there. And you're able to kind of get this really awesome taste profile without having to add in natural flavors or a crazy amount of added sugar. And then the tomato sauce, that was probably the one that was the easiest in the sense that I just didn't want a salt version.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just add in extra veggies. So, and that one's so versatile. Probably one of the easiest meals to whip up, just like make pasta and some meatballs. And then the green coconut, that kind of stemmed for our love of international flavors and being able to go out and wanting to expose our daughter to those flavors when she was really young, so that when it was time to take her out to the restaurants with us, we wouldn't have to ask, the Thai restaurant if they had, chicken nuggets on the menu. That was like my goal. Like, can I bring her out to a restaurant and not have her need to eat something, different? So that one was also fun to make because a lot of curries do have gums in it. And we really liked playing around. There's fresh lemongrass and basil and a lot of, spices that kids typically would not be exposed to, especially in the United States, right? So this is kind of putting it forward to say, these are not flavors that you would traditionally be given, but like I, as a parent, I'm going to make it a point to expose it to you so that you're more receptive to it down the line and may actually enjoy it.
And that is like, I want to thank you so much for including the green coconut curry sauce because, part of our platform is looking at kid food through a cultural lens, right? And we have a cultural problem in America that our kid food is become so bland and so basic that our kids just miss out on even being offered flavors that are bitter or sour or pungent or umami or spicy. But in Korea or in India, these kids are being exposed to that because it's native to their cuisine and their culture. So I am just trying to help parents like rally together and be like, let's do this intentionally. Let's change this culture. And this is like such a great tool to do that with. So it says Beyond the Bib, grown-up flavors for toddler taste buds. I love this because my dream is that eventually we don't even have kid food. We just have family food and that we look at all food as kid friendly, right? But the reality is, yes, a 1-year-old is not going to want as much garlic as I might, right? So to tamp down the flavors and allow parents to have a milder recipe to give their kids while helping them understand this doesn't have to be an adult food. This can just be a family food. That made me so happy in my heart.
Yeah, thank you. No, exactly. And it really is about kind of making the transition to table foods more than just about like the physical chewing and eating of food. It's really transitioning them to the world of what foods the parents are eating and having it be that one family meal. And to your point about, different flavors that are so prominent in other parts of the world, but maybe not here, I think that just goes to show that like those flavors can be considered kid food, right? They don't have to be in their own adult food versus kid food. Like there are plenty parts of the world where, children are eating those very strong, vibrant flavors to begin with, and perhaps never even having mac and cheese until they're well into their teens, right? Kids can survive without that. They can survive on a very well-rounded diet and flavor profile.
Yeah, it's I think just lifting our heads up out of the sand to look around at what other cultures are doing can be so empowering because like I get it. We live in this very kind of rigid box of kid food and what kids like, and it's just not true. It's like we're just being sold and told these lies, and we have been for so long. But like kid food didn't used to exist, not even in America. And for my daughter, I've very intentionally not given her mac and cheese and nuggets and all of those things because I know, to your point, eventually she will experience them. We live in America, and that's totally fine. But I just wanted her, like, that's not hard foods to learn to love, right? We innately like fatty foods. We innately like salty foods and sweet foods. We're born like knowing how to like those flavor profiles. So yeah, we should, like any parent that's questioning like, oh, would a kid really like that? just look at other countries. Like not everyone around the world is eating nuggets and fries and mac and cheese, and their kids still eat food all the time. So make feel a little bit better. So just give me like one or two examples of your favorite ways to use these sauces in your own home with your two littles.
So on any given day, I'm either looking to do two things. I either have enough time and I'm like dedicated, 15, 20 minutes, and I can make something from scratch, we'll call it. So I would say one of my most favorite ways to use it is the green coconut. I'll use this like a simmer sauce. So I'll put either chicken or fish in a pan, start sauteing it, cooking it up, and then like the last 5 minutes, I'll throw in the green coconut sauce and kind of get it simmering so that it really seeps into the protein. And then on the side, I'm cooking usually like a rice. You can kind of do the same thing and use the barbecue sauce as a marinade for chicken. And then, bake that in the oven and have vegetables on the side. The tomato sauce is, pretty easy to know how to use, but I've been really enjoying like thinking of kind of creative ways of using it. So one of my most recent like revelations was adding in some lime juice, some cumin, some cilantro, and turning the tomato sauce into a salsa and having it be like a dip to kind of just like offer to my kids, like, if it's, 4:00 and I need them to keep it together until dinner, I'll put out some vegetables and I'll put it out like a salsa, and like in a no pressure way, it's there. And I find that when I offer my kids food in a very no pressure environment, that's when they're more likely to try new things or like be intrigued by it. Also, probably my all-time favorite for the tomato sauce is making these pizza waffles. My freezer at any given moment is really full of just like batched cooked food that I can defrost like in a pinch. So we recently made, it's basically just taking like flour, the tomato sauce, cheese, and like throwing it in a waffle maker and making like a no mess pizza. And then that way, like I can just, it's like the perfect stroller snack. So like if we're running out for the day, I'll grab a couple from the freezer and I can just like give it to them kind of on the go. So that's like a no saucy, like creative way of using the tomato sauce. That's a little more different and creative than like, obviously putting it on pasta or using it as like a lasagna. But you can get really creative with sauces.
Oh my gosh. Waffle pizzas. I love this concept. They sound so fun. Do you have a recipe for that on your site yet?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we'll link to it.
Yes, it's fun. And like I said, I think the best part about it is that you can like batch make them. So just make like a dozen of them, freeze them. And then like on a Saturday morning when you're going to be out for a long day, grab some and like throw them in the lunchbox, and then they'll be defrosted by the time like a kid gets hangry. And you could just give it to them, and it's like, it's filling, and there's a ton of vegetables in there, and you don't need to like stop for, I don't know, something on the fly. You kind of have it with you.
Right. You have something you feel good about giving them on the go. That's so perfect. Something that I'm excited to do with this, my husband, his father's from Israel, but the shakshuka, we like love it. And we usually make it with an arrabbiata, but this would be fun to do like a little shakshuka with that, something like that. That just came to my mind.
Yeah, it's so funny you said that's one of the recipes that's like on my little docket of like needing to try.
So speaking of trying, how do we know that how did you like get to a place where you're like, the recipes, kids like them? Like what did that recipe testing look like? Who were the little testers? Tell me more about that.
So initially they were, it was just my daughter in the house. And then when we decided that we wanted to try to pursue this, full-fledged as a business, I went first to friends and family and just had them try and get their honest opinion. And kids they don't hold back. If they don't like something, like they will let you know. So there was a ton of iteration just from like a friends and family round. And then after that, it was kind of like one level removed. So who do my friends and family know that have young kids that don't know me, are not, invested in my success at all. And I would say after that round and continuing to iterate, then we were ready to take it to basically a processing authority, which is a group that kind of needs to bless the recipes in order for it to be food safe and for you to continue manufacturing it. So there was a lot of iteration just from a shelf stable standpoint and making it food safe because we weren't adding in preservatives and even salt, which really helps to get the pH level to where it needs to be in order for it to be shelf stable. So we nailed the flavors. It took time, but we nailed those. And at the end, it was really just nailing kind of the preservative piece of it of, okay, how do we make this shelf stable and not have to be in a refrigerator, because that would add a whole new level of complexity if we needed to refrigerate it.
Yeah, definitely. So for someone else that's like wanting to start a food brand, it can feel very romantic and exciting. Like, what would be like your couple top tips for someone thinking of doing something like this?
I think first and foremost, you have to make sure that you have the passion and the drive and just the unwavering belief that there is a need for your product. For me, this is not an easy industry to get into. And I also currently work a 9-to-5.
Wow.
So I am, doing this in addition. But for me, I am so passionate about the idea and I believe that there's such a need for it. I think that has propelled me to continue moving forward, even though, we launched and went live when I was 7 months pregnant with my second child.
Oh my gosh.
We were in our first couple months of selling when I had a newborn. Now I went back to my 9-to-5. So parenting 2 children and working, and ultimately it's really the evenings that I have to work on this. But I really believe so wholeheartedly in the concept and in what we're trying to build that I think for other entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, if they feel so called to whatever idea it is that they have, go for it. But certainly do the research to make sure that there really is a white space and that, there is something that you can really drive to without kind of overexerting yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I just have to give you so much credit having the 2 kids and your full-time job and doing this. But it really is and I actually think I kind of met you online through Jana from Happy Wolf, and so thankful for her product too. But I just not just moms, dads too, but it's I think it will need to be parents who want to change the system, and enough of us get into the CPG space. And maybe eventually there'll be a big conglomerate owned by moms and dads that's only clean CPG. That's a vision board idea.
Amazing. And
that would be great. And that's what our kids need. Seeing
other mom-founded brands who have mission and values very similar to ours is honestly gives me hope for the whole system. And I love learning about them because I'm slowly able to replace things in my kitchen that I don't love. And being able to support other mom brands while doing so is just a win-win. So yes, I would love to be at that company one day with all of our little mission-driven companies together.
Yes, definitely. So I know people will ask, are you considering an organic certification? I know when you're small, it's so expensive to get the certification. Where are you in that journey?
So I think probably one of our best kept secrets is that there is a fair amount of organic ingredients in our sauces. That from the get-go was my absolute must, because I knew it was such a deal breaker for parents who, find that important. And if it's not organic, then it's, something that many parents won't consider. And when we were working on sourcing and finding manufacturers, unfortunately, to launch with, it just wasn't feasible to go all the way and get that certification and find a manufacturer that would work with, such a small brand like us. But it's still important to me to have those ingredients lined up for when we are able to support that. So it's in process, and we're already starting to plan, who, as we graduate to the next level, where can we partner with manufacturers that do have the capability to be organic certified. So it's a must for the brand, and it's only a matter of time and planning, not necessarily if.
Great. That's great. And then in terms of allergies, another good question that families typically have, are these considered allergy safe? I know you have your allergy statement that it's processed in a place with may contain milk, eggs, nuts, soy, and gluten.
Yes. So the recipes themselves are allergy safe. The one
Hmm.
allergen that we do call out is the coconut, which is considered a tree nut for our green
Right.
coconut sauce. But the rest of them do not have any of the top nine allergens.
Hmm.
And yeah, that will also, hopefully come with time and as we scale up and find the right manufacturing partner to be able to be in a dedicated facility that we can give that assurance to allergy, families that, they can trust that our product itself is of course safe and as well as the environment. So for now, we are in a manufacturing facility with other, allergies present potentially, not obviously while we're manufacturing, but hopefully, the goal down the road will be to be in an allergy friendly facility.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you for sharing all of the goodness and everything about the sauces. Because you're passionate, just like I am, about this space of kind of trying to reimagine this kid food culture that we're currently raising our little ones in. I just wanted to ask you like a couple questions to get your take on sort of where we are now and where we can go. So, one of the kind of hot topics that you see a lot of people talking about online is when we are talking to our kids about food and nutrition, is it important to educate our kids about ingredients like artificial food coloring and natural flavors? Is it fear mongering? Like, what is your take and how do you approach it?
I think it depends on first the age of the child and how to
Hmm.
appropriately communicate, what you're trying to get across. But for me, I've always kind of felt like I wanted to approach my daughter with information from like a positive standpoint,
Hmm.
first and foremost. So, what are ingredients that are good for us? What do they do for us? So, the yogurt and the cheese has calcium. Calcium helps our bones grow and helps us be strong. And, carrots are good for vitamin C. So, kind of taking a more educational approach to it. And I
Hmm.
think as she gets older, and is a little more inquisitive potentially about why maybe her friends have some types of foods in their kitchen and we don't. It's more about just educating her that, these are the foods that we choose to eat and that may be different than other people's families. So I really
Hmm.
do think it's to each their own in terms of educating their children.
Yeah.
And my goal as a parent is just to raise confident, independent, self-sufficient children.
Hmm.
And I feel like I'm attempting to lay that foundation now by teaching them healthy eating habits, and
Yeah.
how to identify foods that are nourishing for us.
I think it's such a smart approach. It's approaching from positive education, not scaring them. Obviously, that's not the goal. And it's hard because I always say to parents, like, you guys were like, you're the victims of this culture. I never want parents to feel like if they all of a sudden get really educated about, oh my gosh, all the processed food I've been getting my kid that I thought was okay because everyone has been feeding our kids like this forever is actually making our kids in excess sick, right? And so I think just as you slowly start to become more educated, and for every family that looks different, making these small positive changes and modeling them for our kids and educating them, just like we take it upon ourselves to educate them on so many other things, but somehow food has got shoved by the wayside for way too long. And now we find ourselves, here where we have a obesity epidemic with kids, and kids under 5 are getting type 2 diabetes. Like, it's a real thing. And I don't say that to scare parents. I say it because I would rather be informed so we can take action. That's all. So I love your very balanced approach there. I noticed that you guys, and I think it's on your website maybe, but you say that your sauce is packed with veggies. And I was so happy that you said that, not hidden veggies our kids won't even know it's there, because one of my big platforms and pillars is we have to stop hiding the veggies and treating them like the weird uncle we don't want to come to dinner. Like, we have to start celebrating them for the magical foods they are. So I also love, to your point, that these are blended, so they're a great gateway into vegetables for kids that might have an adverse vision. But I love that you said it in a positive way, because I think labels are very important.
Yes, it was completely intentional. I just have to say,
Yeah.
there's so many brands I see coming out now that are, blatantly marketing that it's hidden and to be sneaky. And
Yeah.
I just find it really bizarre, and it gets me
Yeah.
like really fired up because I
Me too.
think it's like promoting deception with our children. And you'll never see us, use the word hidden. And we actually, like, a little side note, like, we're working with a, marketing firm to help us, with our vision and our identity. And the one thing I
Hmm.
said is, don't you dare put the word hidden anywhere. Like, that's not
Yeah.
what we're about. And I want to be transparent. And even though they're blended, my children are very well aware what are in the
Yeah.
sauces, and we're
Right.
not trying to hide it at all. So I appreciate you noticing that.
Yes, and I think more every time I see a big brand, I will DM them on social media and just be like, "Hey, I don't want to call you guys out because that's also not what I'm about, but I want there to be a new narrative that it's not okay to hide these really healthful magical foods from our kids." And that's what's given vegetables, I say they have a they have a PR problem, and they do. In America, they're like the kind of boring thing that kids are supposed to eat to get a treat. And I tell Stella, we just bought some asparagus the other day and it was purple asparagus. And any vegetable that's like an unusual color, I'm like, we found unicorn asparagus and it was expensive. Like, and I wouldn't always buy it, but I wanted her to be able to try it. And so I was explaining, I said, this is a treat. She's like, that's not a treat. And I was like, no, it's a treat because it's seasonal. It's precious. It costs more money than mom would usually spend on a vegetable. So it is a treat. And I'm trying to help her reframe what a treat can be. And oh my gosh, she ate probably 8 spears. She was loving it because it was so good.
We did the same thing with purple cauliflower recently, and like my daughter's
Yes.
mind was blown. Like, purple, I was like, purple cauliflower.
I know.
And I think, like, my biggest tip for parents, like, bring your kids grocery shopping. Not every week, that could get a lot. But like, if you have like a minute to spare, bring them to the grocery store. Like, let them see all the different colors and the different textures, and like, let them help with the shopping. Like, that will get them engaged and more interested, and just wanting to try new foods.
Yeah. So the last kind of food culture question I'll ask you before we move on is, you have 2 kids. You said you're a food family. You wanted them to be able to enjoy family foods. What is your opinion on the label picky eater? Do you think it's more nature versus nurture? And how have you feed your 2 kids the same, I'm assuming. So how have you seen your methods kind of pan out with your 2 kids?
So far, so my daughter is a good eater. She has definitely become opinionated as
Mm-hmm.
she's going into her 4th year. But she will try new food. She'll try new foods. She'll, say, if she likes it or she didn't like it. So she definitely has her preferences. But I
Yeah.
am convinced, and moms never give ourselves enough credit.
Right.
This one, I'm taking, and my husband will agree, like, taking credit for the strategy that we used in introducing her to, early flavors when she first started eating. Like, it's worked.
Mm-hmm.
She won't always, finish her plate, but she will sit at the table. She'll try new foods. And my son just turned a year, so he's still kind of in that sweet spot of, like,
Yeah.
put anything in front of him, and he'll eat
Totally.
it. But
Yeah.
but I do believe that we'll see success with him too. And when my daughter does decide that it's a meal that she's just not into, then that's okay. And I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I don't force it upon her. No one more bite nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
I know that, one meal does not define the total nutrition for a child. And if she's not
Correct.
into it that day, then we move on.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to create a negative environment around mealtime. I just
Yeah.
can see that backfiring in so many ways. And then I think, in terms of the word picky eater, I think it's, I don't want to make it lighthearted, but I can't tell you how many parents I've spoken to now. They all say their children are picky eaters.
I
And
know.
I think if we reframe it as selective or opinionated, or kind of like meet your child where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
I keep hearing that phrase just in terms of, child development. And if your child has kind of gotten into a rut where maybe there's a select number of tried and true, then what can you do to meet them where they're at? That maybe it's chicken nuggets, right? Maybe it's introducing a dip on the side, like our barbecue sauce that has a ton of vegetables, and try to get them to see mealtime in a different way than how they have been. Whether it's bringing them to the grocery store, adding a dip on the side, having them help with the meal prep and the cutting. So I don't love the word picky. I think it's obviously just gotten this connotation to be a catch-all for like literally any child that's between like 1 and 4.
Yeah.
And I think parents have more control than they know. And with Beyond the Bib, I'm hoping to empower them based on the success that I've seen within my own family.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, I talk about the label picky eating, and I really wish we could cancel that label really publicly, because I think it ends up being a crutch for parents. And I'm not blaming parents, but when we're all using it and all of a sudden every kid's picky, the kid hears that they're picky and it becomes a limiting belief for them. And at the end of the day, they're just learning. They're all learning to eat, just like kids learn to read and they learn to swim and they learn at different paces. And I'm like, would we ever say to a kid, like, all of a sudden, would we all be like, oh, my kid's just a slow reader. Oh, slow reader. We would never do that, because it's like so disrespectful. And so I love the term like selective, sure, like it's more accurate, or a learning eater. And that also infers that.
Love that.
It's our job as parents to teach them how to eat. And I think it's something that we just all thought they should know innately. But for the flavor profiles, especially that aren't fairly represented in American kid food culture, bitter, sour, spicy, pungent, umami, we have to work harder. And these sauces are just totally here to help us do that. Okay. So now we are going to move on to the last part of our episode here, which is a little speed round of questioning. And we'll start with our top 2. So what have been the top 2 most difficult or frustrating things about being a mompreneur? Probably
say feeling like you can't give 100% to everything all the time, right? It's a balancing act. And I think I end every day feeling both extremely accomplished and also like I got nothing done. So I think that's probably been, one of the biggest struggles, is feeling like you're kind of running in a million different directions, making a little bit of progress in each way. But at the end of the day, I have to really remind myself, okay, what do I have to show for it? Well, I have 2 incredible kids who are growing and thriving and respectful, kind young people. I have a career, and I have this incredible Beyond the Bib business that I am pouring my heart and soul into, and that is filling my cup, which I think as a mom is important, that we need to feel like our cup is being filled too. So balancing all that is probably one of the biggest struggles.
I can very much relate. Let's do your dream connection. So who is one person or one company you would love to meet or partner with or be mentored by this year to help Beyond the Bib reach the next level of success? Just in case they're listening, you never know. Or someone can connect you.
I think from a mentor standpoint, I've always kind of followed Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She's just this incredible powerhouse that, from understanding where she came from and just rejection and setbacks after setbacks, she just kind of continued on her path. So I would love to just, pick her brain in terms of resiliency and grit in the entrepreneur world. Yeah. And I think for food, there's a company called Simple Mills that they are just like, to me, they were what set me on my journey of really reading ingredient labels when I was looking to clean up my own health and inflammation. And I would just love to talk to that founder kind of about how did they go from, the beginning to now being in natural grocery stores like Whole Foods, all the way, down to mass channels like Target and Walmart. They've really been able to reach the gamut. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll make sure to forward the episode links to both of those people, because you never know what the interwebs, how it will connect people. You never know. The next one is the magic wand. So if you could wave a magic wand, what's one thing you wish more parents knew when it comes to feeding young children?
they have more control than they know. And that I don't think we need to subscribe to kind of this theme we've been talking about, that all kids will be picky eaters and kids can only eat kid foods, that we as parents really do play a very integral role. And I think it just comes down to education and having a toolbox in our arsenal as parents to know, these are the kinds of things that we can implement, whether it's, just exposing them to different flavors and different foods, or getting them more involved in the meal prep and the grocery shopping. And there was a point in time where my daughter, I don't know, she just wouldn't touch broccoli. She was over broccoli. Mm-hmm. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to give her a whole head of broccoli. I'm just not going to cut it up. I'm just going to put it down on her plate. And she thought it was hysterical. Yeah. And she took a big bite of it. And then we were kind of over that weird broccoli phase. So it's things like that I think, you can have in your arsenal. And we have more control than we know. We don't have to subscribe to okay, between ages 1 and 4, it's chicken nuggets or bust. Yeah. We can do this. Yeah. We can do this.
Yeah. And, it's a personal mission of mine to kind of dispel the myth that I think we too easily lean into, which is the belief that kids can just eat healthy later in life. And research is finding that the health of the gut microbiome is built mostly from years 0 to 10 years old. And so, I have a lot of families who they're look, I know this and I want to feed my kids healthier, but the juice is not worth the squeeze because maybe they don't cook and they, work a lot. And so they're this is just not where I can spend my energy. And part of what I guess I want to help parents understand is if we're not laying this foundation for our kids' health, we're doing them such a big disservice, and it does get laid early in life. And so being able to have variety is a massive part of gut health. And I think Dr. Mark Hyman talks about 15 to 30 different plants a week. These are little powerhouses of variety. I was so pumped about this because Stella and I actually do a star chart for the number of types of plants we eat in a week. And it's been such a great way to gamify. We go on our vegetable adventures to the grocery store and I'm okay, we need 7 more different plants this week. And so she's, it's just about the star chart for her. It's not about questioning, is she going to like the food? But yeah, I really think that just, being able to help parents pivot that it is important when they're young and it is our job to teach them, and that there are tools to help us. Now we are going to point our eyes towards the future. What is next for Beyond the Bib?
More flavors.
Great.
So many flavors.
Oh, great.
Yes. That has been, it's been in the works for a while, and we're really close to our next one. Mm-hmm. And I think it's been really great hearing feedback over the past year on what flavors our families are loving and what they're gravitating to. And again, to that notion of meeting your children where they're at, what sauces or condiments are parents already having success with their kids eating that they would like to, beef up a little bit in terms of nutrition. So we have new flavors in the works, and our plan is to just shoot them out, get feedback. We kind of see Beyond the Bib as almost a collaboration with other parents, mm-hmm. really. We're doing this for parents, but we really enjoy doing it with them. Because it's really to make all of our lives easier. So lots of fun flavors coming on board, hopefully within the next couple months.
Okay, that's so exciting. I would, for my own personal benefit, I'd love if you guys had a submissions portal on your website where people can submit their favorite sauce that they want to have reimagined, because people will DM me a lot more so when I was more into recipe development, and they would say, can you reimagine this favorite family recipe for me, in a healthful or gluten-free way? Because that was when I learned my husband was gluten-free way back when, and helping people work through that. But that would be fun, and I would submit. I have a couple ideas. So
I love that idea. I love that. I'm literally today, need to create a submission form.
It'd be fun. Yes, it gets that awesome conversation rolling. And so where can people buy your delicious sauces right now?
We are currently available on our website at beyondthebib.com. as well as Amazon.
Okay.
So both really super convenient ways. I know we're all like placing multiple Amazon orders a day.
Yeah.
So Amazon is like a very easy way to just throw some Beyond the Bib in there.
Okay, that's great to know. How can people help spread the word? Where can we connect with you online?
So we are active on social media. So on Instagram, our handle is Beyond the Bib Food. We're also a little bit on TikTok. But really word of mouth and just, telling people that we exist. I love to talk to our customers. I love to receive feedback. So, please, definitely reach out to me. I love talking to everybody. So if you could just find us on social media and then try us. And if you like us, then spread the word. I think parent to parent recommendations and advice is like the gold standard as a parent. So that's really the best that we could ask for. If you like us, to spread the word.
That's so true. When and if you try it, just tell friends about it, right? Because I trust nothing more than a mom friend or a dad friend or whoever, right? A caregiver of a child saying to me, you have to try this product. It's so great. It makes me want to go out and buy it right then, because if someone else is going to take the time to talk about it. So if you try it and you like it, support beautiful brands like Beyond the Bib, who are doing so much late at night to help our kids eat better. Well, Jill, I so enjoyed meeting you. I so enjoyed our conversation. I want to thank you for, now I know how busy you really are. So thank you for taking the time to come on to the Earth Food First podcast. And I think you already know, but you're doing a lot more than just creating sauces. You are truly laying the foundation to help parents realize our kids can eat all food. And in doing that, you are really helping families lay the foundation for lifelong health. And it's magical and it's so worth it. And I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the time. I love chatting with you. And thank you for all that you're doing, with your community and educating parents that there is an easy way out there to kind of navigate feeding your children in a healthy way. So thank you.
Thanks so much. And as always, a big thanks to you, my friend, for taking the time to learn with us, for questioning cultural norms, and for being bold in the face of change. Until next week, remember, our kids are more than capable of expanding their palates when we give them the chance to try. Again and again and again. If you learned something, it would mean the world to me if you would follow, rate, and review our podcast and share it with your favorite families. These actions will literally help the show go on. For more Earth Food First goodness, follow along on Instagram at Earth Food First and on our website at earthfoodfirst.com. Make sure to grab your free Earth Food First grocery guide in the show notes, along with Jill's recipe for pizza waffles. Yes, please. Bye for now.